everyone, and welcome to Climate and Cuisine Podcast. My name is Jane DeMarines, and I'm the Executive Director of Climate Diet. And with me today, my co-host in this endeavor is Erin DeMarines, vegan chef and CEO of eFit Foods in Tampa, Florida. And she's joining us for our first episode, but also will be co-host in many episodes to come. Just a little bit about Climate Diet. It's 3 years old, and we focus on the benefits of creating awareness of people's eating habits and how that affects their health, but also the health of the climate. And we want to share research with you, and we want to bring in experts to talk about this because it is so important to our own health and to the future of planet Earth. And as my daughter Erin always says, there is no planet B. So Erin, welcome. And why don't you talk a little bit about yourself? Erin is a vegan chef in Tampa and also a health teacher, a health consultant in Tampa, Florida. But she is the reason that I am a vegetarian and a vegan. I'm vegan now, but first a vegetarian 20 years ago, she talked to me. So Erin, why don't you tell that story and then talk about your own origin story? How did you become a vegan?
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the introduction. It's a great story. It changed my life, right? So when we talk about being vegan or eating vegan food for our health and for the health of our planet, for me, it was as an athlete. I was working out with a triathlon coach, and that coach was vegan, but he never told me that. And we were on just this epic long run, and he asked me what was my complaints about training. And I said, sometimes I get congested. I feel like I'm not clear, and it's only when I'm running. And he said, oh, you're probably lactose intolerant. I said, well, we don't eat a lot of cheese in my family. And he said, yeah, there's milk in everything. And so we started talking about it, and he said, all right, for 3 days, I just want you to do an experiment. For 3 days, no dairy. Make sure you read labels. Make sure you ask the servers at restaurants. Just try it. I was like, for 3 days, sure. What could be the harm done? Like, that's an easy thing to do. And in 3 days, it was like this awakening moment of like, wow, I feel really different. I'm able to run easier, more clear. I wasn't kind of congested. It was just this light bulb moment. I was like, okay, what's going on here? So obviously I was probably lactose intolerant somewhat, but the real issue was what you eat has such an impact. And now that impact for me was on my athletic ability, but it changed my trajectory in life, my life's passion. And I started researching, went back to school, got certified as a plant-based consultant and a sports consultant because of this one 3-day experiment that this guy obviously talked me into trying. And when I felt that in 3 days, it's like, how can you not like then want to know more? Okay, what is our food doing to our bodies? And I don't know if everybody really stops and thinks about it because we're just so used to eating what we get at a restaurant. We don't think about portion size. We don't think about ingredients. And when you stop and learn and really get the knowledge about what's going into your body and how it affects you and your health, it's a very eye-opening thing, as it was for obviously our family too. I had you all read the China study because that was
Yeah,
a
it
very
totally changed. We became vegan just like that. That was it. Well, we were
right.
vegetarian first, but your story isn't unusual, actually. Our webmaster, when he was putting up all the material for my website, he was created my first website for me. He said, well, I don't know if you know, but I became vegan just from reading all your material. And he said, I said, well, what was the impact on you? And we ran an interview with him in our newsletter. He said it was like being on a caffeine high, but for the whole day. And he went running and he said it was unbelievable how he felt. And it was like, wow, I can't remember back to the beginning because it's so long ago, but awesome experience when people, you know, go vegan, or in your case, you really just gave up dairy. So
Exactly. And then it's a snowball effect, right? Like of course, was all about my health and my athletic training and my function of as an athlete. But then when I went back to school for it and went through all these courses, and you really dive into the details and the and the scientific facts of these, some of these, the most well-known doctors in the United States and all over the world that have spent their lives studying it. And it's like, it's so eye-opening. It's hard. How do you, I could never go back. And I think because I know so much, and I also know that doctors, because I know a lot of doctors here in Tampa, they get 4 hours of training and education in their entire residency on nutrition. They have no clue.
No, it's not enough, right?
It is not enough. 4 hours.
No, I think one of the things that's important to point out is people don't realize also there's so much overweight, obesity in the country among children. It's growing in children at an alarming rate. About 50% of the population, I think it's a little bit under, are overweight, not obese, but overweight. And for children, it's I've seen some data, 29%, I believe, under the age, from school age up through the age of 19. So it's a huge problem for the country. But if you eat a vegetarian diet, most vegetarians are not overweight. You can be. You can eat the wrong thing. If you start eating processed foods and a lot of sugar, you're probably going to go back to bad habits. But it's also a very good way to lose weight and be healthy at the same time. But why don't we talk a little bit about the climate too? Animal agriculture, just a piece of data. Animal agriculture uses about 80% of all arable land in the world, but it's only producing 20% of the calories or the food that is needed globally. So it's so inefficient, and it's logical if you think about the size of cattle and how much water and how much food they need to grow. They're massive animals. I think they weigh from 1 to 2 tons. I mean, so it's using up the deforestation in many countries, Brazil, Indonesia, huge amounts of deforestation, all attributed to animal agriculture. So when you reduce meat, you start saving the climate, and even reducing meat by a small amount has a big impact. I did a little piece of research with your sister, who is also a vegan. If the entire population of the United States just for 1 day a week for 1 year gave up meat, just 1 day a week, it's the same as taking 25 million gas-powered cars off the road. I mean,
That's
it's huge.
Crazy.
It's huge. And that's just 1 year. And that's just 1 day a week. So you can imagine if people actually go vegan. So thank you, all you vegans out there.
Yeah. I think,
Absolutely.
I think that a lot of people think only about their plate, right? They don't think about the impact on the climate and our planet. Once we're gone, it's now our kids' problems, right? And I have a 13-year-old, so it's now going to be then her problem. So
Right.
if we make smarter decisions now, maybe we can make that change. And obviously that's why we're doing this podcast, and that's why I am a health coach, and that's why I am always trying to get people to really open their eyes to, yeah, it's about your health 100%, but you also share this planet with 100% of everybody else. So you can't think about like it's just about my body and how much protein I'm getting and, oh, what am I going to eat? You have to think about like not just yourself, right? We are all here together collectively. Like, let's help each other out and help our planet out, so we are then not passing on these problems and more problems, right? Let's start now.
Absolutely. So 3 years ago, as I said, I've been was a vegetarian first for 18 years, based on you giving us the China study, and a great piece of research used by many, many doctors and cardiologists around the country and around the world. So I went my merry way, just being a vegetarian. And then one day I read a report, and again, this was about 3 years ago, and I was getting ready to retire from my career, and I was with Department of Homeland Security at that point. I read this report, and it might have been out of the UN, saying the connection with the climate. And it's like, what? I'm a news junkie, so I've been reading articles for 18 years, and I've never once seen anything about the connection to the climate. And it's like, you know what? If I don't know this, I don't think many people know this. And so I started Climate Diet um, to start creating the awareness, because it just isn't known. I think more people would make the change if they really understood the negative impact on the climate. I mean, it's logical to think about it, but if you're just not thinking about it, you go your merry way and you just keep eating meat, right?
Right. Because that's what we're so accustomed to. Like people don't get the connection there. And I love that you have started this, because you are going to open up some people's eyes to problems that they could themselves do something, right? Everybody is always thinking, what impact am I really going to make, right? Oh, I'm going to not eat meat for one day. Oh yeah, I can do that. But really, is that going to do much? And then you just prove that by the statistics of with Julia, my sister. I mean, the impact is very real and very tangible, but people just don't understand. And that's what we're here for, right? Let's educate, let's get the facts out there. And it's, again, I gave a speech last night at an event, and I think people just, I think the only way to keep educating people is for people like you and I to get this information out, because you're not going to get it from a doctor unless you're going to a doctor that's obviously understands this or maybe is educated in this. And then again, if you're not seeing it in the news, like you haven't seen it in the news very much, then how are you getting this information? And this is not some piece of information that like you're going to get a kickback from the climate, whatever. I don't know what that I guess that entity is called. Like I don't get a kickback from the Vegan Society because I'm helping people go vegan, right? Like this is like information that we need to get out there. And let's do that with this podcast and showcase like, hey, it is a collective thing what we're doing here. We are helping people get healthier, but we are also helping that planet. Let's bring all that together and talk about like what great food we eat, and also just get people to understand and open their eyes to this way of living.
Well, I'm glad you brought up sort of the business end of this and the eating end, because one of our partners, obviously, that makes it so easy compared back to 20 years ago when, you were eating a bean burger. We have all these delicious new foods, and the private sector has really jumped in, and they're even advertising. One of the two big plant-based burger companies is now advertising on national TV, and it was like, yes, this is so wonderful. This is so wonderful because more people are going to know. It's so much easier. You know this. We had to make our own bean burgers. There's great healthy food out there. You don't have to buy expensive food. But one of my guests is going to be Jonah Goldman, and he's the CEO and co-founder and marketing director for Plant Burger. It's a chain here in Washington, D.C. and in the East Coast. I think he has 17 branches, and he's connected often with Whole Foods and inside a Whole Foods, but it's fantastic. And their chicken sandwiches are great. Yeah, so the private sector is doing a huge part to make this an easy transition for people. People don't even know. I forget who was telling me that I think they said McDonald's tried an experiment for one day. They just gave everyone, I'm not sure if this is true, but someone told me this. They gave everybody a plant-based burger in place of a real one. No one ever knew. No one ever knew at all. And I know some other chains have tried it, and people, you cannot tell the difference. They're delicious.
Right. And I think some of those companies like Impossible Burger and what's the
Beyond
other one? Beyond. They listen to the consumers too. They are constantly reformulating, making it healthier, because I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, that's so many chemicals and that fake meat, and I would never eat that. And it's like, if you only knew what went into your meat before it hit your plate, it is so many more chemicals than any of these other burgers.
Yes. When it starts going gray in the supermarket, they add dye to make it red. I've read articles. I'm not sure every supermarket is doing this, but it's being done certainly some places. So
especially in like the seafood market. And the seafood sector, yeah. I mean, the farm raised seafood, I mean, it's horrible. It's really bad. But anyway, we could go down that path.
So we have lots and lots of things to talk about. It's going to be so exciting. And I'm so thrilled to have you as a partner in this. You know so many people. And we're just going to bring in the best people to share their knowledge with us and bring our own research to it as well. So Erin, I'm so excited. Do you have any last comments for our audience today?
No, I hope everybody will listen in and stay tuned and pass this on. And again, we are going to always welcome our feedback from any of our listeners that want to maybe talk about a certain topic or have questions for us that we can utilize that in our future podcasts. And I have my very first guest, I can't wait, Robert Cheek, who is an amazing plant-based bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Yes,
his
he's
reputation.
a great story.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so great. And Jonah Goldman is going to be my first guest. So we're so excited. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for our little intro. And Erin, thank you so much for being a partner and for helping me become a vegan so many years ago. And that concludes our first show. Thank you.